Welcome back to the X-Files. Today we look at one of the most beloved sports series in recent memory and the newest manga I'll have covered thus far. Let's boot up this file. Full name: Green Green Greens, often abbreviated to GGG. Created by Kento Terasaka. Start date November 27, 2023. End date June 10th, 2024. Total chapters 26. For the English translation, we have Christine Dashiell to thank and Brandon Hull on lettering. Kento Terasaka is an avid fan of sports and manga, citing One Piece and Karakuri Sukas to be among his favorites. He would make a start in the manga world in 2014, submitting Soba no Sensu to the 89th Jump Newcomer Treasure Award, which he'd get an honorable mention for. This one-shot would then be published in Jump Next Volume 2 of 2015, being about two children performing rakugo as part of their school's culture festival. Sometime in or before this period, they would also work as an assistant on Kuroko's basketball, likely during its conclusion. It being a sports manga, it's fitting, as future works would almost exclusively fit this genre, starting with Terasaka's next one-shot, Ringo. A few issues after Soba no Sensu, it would debut in Jump Next Volume 6 of 2015, being a rugby story which would gradually develop as Terasaka would get a short serial under the same name in Jump Giga starting in Volume 1 of 2016. This version of Ringo would last 4 chapters and would be about two brothers who play rugby, but we're not done here as this concept would evolve yet again, taking form in 2019 under the name Beast Children. Debuting in Weekly Shonen Jump issue 26, the series would see Sakura Shishigaya join the world of high school rugby, with the series lasting 27 total chapters. Having peddled this idea around for half a decade and with it not landing, Terasaka would then shift from here on out. I'm Arm would be his next one-shot, coming out in Jump Giga's autumn issue of 2020, being about arm wrestling. And pay attention to these two characters as you'll be pretty familiar with them by the end of this video. And finally, we reach Gain, which acts as the one-shot version of today's manga Green Green Greens, though it's quite different. It would be published in Weekly Shonen Jump issue 7 of 2022, seeing Senkanji Toaru participate in a perilous golfing game with millions of yen on the line. If you'd like to know more about it, I actually talked about this one-shot in this video, as well as some other things related to Terasaka. I also encourage you to read this one-shot as it's been fan-translated online. Through the majority of a decade, Terasaka had been gradually working on various sports manga, honing his craft, switching sports, and then in late 2023, his newest series would finally take flight. In the end, no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be someone better than you. Green Green Greens opens with our protagonist Haku Yaesaki, a listless high schooler with no prospects or dreams for the future, who coasts along seeing everyone around him entangled in their own interests and dreams. Initially, Yaesaki is a pretty interesting character. There's clearly potential within him just like any other person, and yet he looks at things in a very mechanical sort of way, equating success with money in more than a few instances, a thematic holdover from the Gain one-shot. Furthermore, for his career path questionnaire in school, he picks things like a computer science engineer as a job that's most likely going to lead to some amount of employment and cash, but Yaesaki's heart isn't in that. He's a little frustrating, a bit hollow, but the way in which the series presents him, monologuing about his path and future, as well as the idea that someone will always be better than him, sows some excellent seeds for his growth. It comes off less that he's lazy or wholly vapid as a person, and more like he's just never found the thing that drives some people. I find it pretty difficult to relate to this on a personal level. I've always had things that have driven me to make or create things. I love drawing, I love stories, and how those intersect into the broader concept of art. It drives me and inspires me to live. But I know for some other people they might not have something they're exceptionally passionate about. Green Green Greens shows us the story and the very moment someone finds their greatest passion, and it does so through a fateful meeting between Yaesaki and his classmate Oga, who, in contrast to him, has something she would die for. When prompted by her teacher not to rush her career path questionnaire, Oga snaps back. "Are you asking I should be prepared to compromise on my life?" This line burns like a heated metal rod. Instantly you feel her resolve and passion. Whatever she's talking about is immensely important to her, and this piques Yaisaki's curiosity, so he follows Oga to where she's practicing golfing. Oga may not be the central character, but a substantial amount of Greens is about her, and she is the catalyst for the entire series effectively. Her coldness to Yaisaki is a great contrast. He's very chipper, always making little comments, smiling, or generally being expressive, but there's something about these expressions. They're pretty performative and lack depth. Meanwhile, the glacial Oga has this glint in her eye. She may be stone-faced and pretty to the point most of the time, but there's something in her movement as she strikes a golf ball, and there's something in her eyes. This enraptures Yaisaki. He notices that the way she golfs feels different. It's beautiful, but his way of thinking returns to his usual self, and he remarks about how much money pro golfers' old clubs are worth. Peeved at this observation and focused on monetary value, Oga ushers him to try to strike the golf ball, and Yaisaki misses over and over, only to graze his ball on his 7th try. Just like he missed the ball over and over, Yaisaki has missed the point, a crucial point about why people fall in love with their passions. Like Oga says, Yaisaki equates the abilities of others to money, as he doesn't try to understand how people have gotten to that point. He doesn't clock how much hard work, passion, and effort go into getting good at something. It's kind of wild how deeply she rips into him too. But what this does do is make him reflect, and earnestly he returns to Oga in an attempt to understand, and he does so by learning how to golf, or at least how to hit a golf ball effectively. After hitting and hitting and hitting, finally Yaisaki lands one good hit, and even though it's not the best ever, there's elation in the fact that his hard work has amounted to something. The very person who scolded him then compliments him, and this chance meeting then blossoms into something much, much more. Yaisaki's journey to get better at golf truly starts now, and the series gradually drip feeds truths about the game, like rules, club types, general knowledge, as well as a slate of encouraging characters to cheer Yaisaki on. One of the first of these is Coach Mizusa, a beautiful older lady who encourages Yaisaki to play the game more, offering him a part-time position at the golf club over summer so he can use the golf range for free. She also oversees him as he breaks through some initial barriers, which are illustrated through brilliant metaphor, striking down metaphysical walls which lay in his path. The development of Yaisaki is something we follow intimately. This is partially done through frequent monologues. We have access to his thoughts a lot of the time, but the series goes into a great deal about his learning process, and I want to underline his in his learning process. There's a great moment early on during a little contest where Yaisaki rejects some advice from Oga. It reminds me of Luffy in One Piece rejecting the easy outs and cut and dry answers for what everything is, like what is the One Piece or how to get to Raftel. Yaisaki wants to figure out elements of the game on his own. He loves learning about it and discovering his ideal process. This is an exceptionally important theme of Greens, falling in love with the process and acknowledging that everyone progresses at different rates in different ways. Like Yaisaki says, I want to search for what my own personal vision of golf is. Furthermore, this little contest arc goes on to drive home how difficult the game of golf is. It's parallel to picking up the exact amount of sand over and over in your hands, an impossibility. It takes an immense amount of dedication to reach perfection, and Greens frames this pursuit in the act of swinging a golf club in a captivatingly beautiful way. It's not something foolish to pursue. There's clear development from all of the cast, and them getting better gives them a strong sense of satisfaction. There's also other reasons some pursue golf, and golf also impacts some characters' lives in greater ways, which the series goes on to explore. Alongside finding your ideal path within your given passion, Greens also delves into what it means to give it your all within your passion too. How does falling in love with golf ripple outward and change you as a person? How does it enrich you? How does it affect your outlook on life? And how does it impact your relationships with others? For Yaisaki, it means a lot of things. We see him become a bit less vapid. He stops comparing things monetarily. He sells a lot of his possessions, things he didn't care for that represented his prior aimless life. After starting golf, he starts to make more friends too. He had some before, but now he tends to approach them in a way that's a bit more empathetic, perhaps because he now is beginning to understand the struggles as a fellow golfer. This series isn't all about him though, as we have examples of other golfers who have been giving the sport their all since childhood, like Uga as well as Oliver, another major character who gets introduced early on. With his inception, he also invites Oga to come with him back to America, a major plot point I think for many golf series, as the golf scene in America is much bigger. This unlocks some more depth in Oga, who is struggling with something and who may end up leaving Japan for good. Since she's the force that brought Yaesaki into this world, he's then dead set on playing at least one actual game against her. Before he can do this though, he's missing core fundamentals like the ability to putt. I feel GGG explains the game really well incrementally, like it's not overloading you with golfing lingo at any given time. It segments learning about the actual game in a very diegetic way. Its slower pace and focus on the characters I feel endears you to them a lot, so even if the series isn't doing anything crazy, we care about what these characters want to achieve no matter how small, which as a result makes even the most basic of things exciting. How Yaesaki opts to solve this is to get the newly introduced Oliver to teach him how to putt, and he is another big example of a character who's given their life to golf. For Oliver, Yaesaki's fling with golf pales in comparison to his infatuation. He sees no benefit in helping Yaesaki, telling him that every moment he isn't practicing, his performance weakens. He's rude and pretty off-putting, but Yaesaki keeps pestering him, trying to show him how much he's willing to give up, all his possessions, his money, everything he has at that moment. It's not enough, and Yaesaki figured this, but what ends up being enough is a lot more interpersonal and seemingly unrelated to golf. Oliver is actually back in Japan to visit his little brother. Due to a focus on golf, he barely knows his own family. There's the spark of wanting to connect, but he figures it might be already too late. This small arc is excellent and unexpected, taking a step back from the golf to focus on drama and character building. It interweaves heavy subjects like divorce and estrangement in an understandable and realistic way. It eschews Yaesaki getting to learn from Oliver through money or beating him through golf, and reaches down into a more humanistic realm. It's a great demonstration of showing how Yaesaki has evolved. He tries to work out how to solve his problems, but in doing so he attempts to reach Oliver empathetically, through involving his own little brother so all of them can play Pokemon cards together and bond. Just like Oliver feared, the relationship he has with his brother seems unsalvageable. His brother sees this as Oliver forcing himself to hang out with him, and feels neglected and angry at golf and his own brother. But after Oliver leaves, the brother conveys to Yaesaki that he is proud of Oliver and perhaps feels unworthy to be attached to someone so amazing, having not done much with his own life, feeling behind with everything. It's complicated, but he views Oliver as a hero despite their estrangement, and Oliver of course overhears all of this, falling into tears. Entwined in all of this is also a message about not holding back, to try. Oliver should try to connect to his brother. It's not as hopeless as it seems. Yaesaki should keep trying to get to know Oliver despite his stoic and stony exterior. And there's this interaction with Yaesaki where he shows Oliver's brother an old picture of himself as a child, where Yaesaki is chubby and he's lost a race, which he seems to keep on his phone to remind himself not to be too daring, to not push too hard or he'll fall down. And the arc culminates with him deleting this photo. Alongside trying, we fail, and failure is a core component of the series which we'll tackle as we progress throughout this video. It's a really nice learning moment for Yaesaki, and I just like the idea that he has this image on his phone which has held him back this entire time, and now he's finally letting go and he's embracing the fact that sometimes you have to fall. You have to fall so you can get up and try again. After this, we finally get to step on the fairway, and Yaesaki has the goal of attaining a birdie, a 1 under par score. For golf, if you don't know, the lower the score the better, and each hole has an assigned number of strokes you need to get the ball into each hole. For a 5 par hole, for example, getting the ball in the hole in 5 strokes is the goal, but say you got it in 4 strokes instead, well that's a birdie. For a beginner, this is an exceptional feat, but it's one Yaesaki wants to accomplish to wow Oga. But on his first hole, he messes up. He scrapes up turf, he knocks the ball outside the course, into bunkers. It's hard. No matter how much effort Yaesaki has put in or how naturally he's taken to the sport, he's still a beginner, and I appreciate the series' stance on this. But he doesn't get frustrated and give up. Once again, I'm lost, trying so hard just to make a fool out of myself. I wish I never tried. That's how I used to think, but that's not me anymore. My luck and my skill, my successes and my failures, my effort and my talent, they're all me. No matter what happens, I choose to accept who I am. The acknowledgement of the journey and the self, I think, is a very healthy mindset of viewing things holistically. Your successes and failures both lead to you learning. As long as you persevere, there's growth there. Yaesaki takes 15 strokes to complete his first hole. He had to take penalties too, and on paper, this score sucks. It's really bad. But just saying that would be ignoring the process. Learning how it feels to golf on the actual green for the first time, hitting that first ball, getting stuck in different ways, it's all a part of the process. To bring back an earlier moment, when first getting into putting, it's revealed that Yaesaki is actually left-handed, but didn't realize certain facilities existed at the time in the golf center that cater to left-handed people. This could be a big deal or not. It's made out to be a twist that shows Yaesaki might have pigeonholed himself through a difficult path by driving right-handed. From what I can tell, different people are comfortable with different swings, but this is all part of the learning process. What works, what feels right, which hand do you use? One of Green's greatest strengths is illustrating this process. How does one learn? Which I feel a lot of sports series miss out on or don't spend much time dwelling on, to this extent anyway. This methodical approach of learning something that's intimately tied to the person doing it. If it ran for longer, perhaps it would give way to more bombastic moments, bigger victories that feel truly earned, but GGG likes to focus on these small ones too. They're equally as important and foundational for growth. Building on this, when you grow and compete, you tend to look around you and compare. You compare yourself to others around you, to an expected level in your field, or to the very best. But there is a big push from Greens to change this viewpoint and to change your ideal, because everyone learns and grows differently. I love how it achieves this through making Yaesaki's ideal himself. He wants to be the best version of himself he possibly can be. It's an instance of Greens taking the classic sports shonen approach of wanting to be the best, but applying it in this nurturing and reflective way. It promotes getting better, persevering, but maintaining a healthy relationship with oneself, which I adore. This first game on the fairway crystallizes a lot about the series. Yaesaki really comes into his own, and the idea of failure being integral to the process of growth is paid off in spades here and only gets stronger as the series continues. It's fitting then that after this, the series shifts focus somewhat to Oga. The same ideas and themes are on display, and Yaesaki continues to grow, and yet he's not the one playing. In this final arc of GGG, Oga invites Yaesaki to be her caddy, to hold her clubs, assist in minor ways so he can spectate the game and continue to learn. Through the series, the two's relationship has evolved a ton. They couldn't have been further apart in the beginning, but Oga ended up lighting Yaesaki's fire through golf and gradually ended up assisting him while remaining an Ice Queen. She has warmed up though, and in turn, Yaesaki's drive to be better has infected her. She wants to be better and has grown in expressiveness little by little. In contrast, Yaesaki has grown quieter, more contemplative and less performative. What he does and says now feels a lot more measured and emotionally mature. I love how both have learned and grown from each other. It may have been a short time, all things considered, but both have developed beautifully side by side. Getting to see Oga play in one more game is a treat too. The golfing all around is more competitive, there's a higher level of pressure, especially considering Oga vowed to go to the States should she win, which she's adamant she'll do, but she doesn't. Injury holds her back and she ends up losing. The two then find themselves sitting in a railway station and have a heart-to-heart. Yaesaki relays how much she's inspired him, but even beyond that, how much he wants to be like her, to live his life vigorously through something he loves by pouring every ounce of passion he can into it. Oga looks at Yaesaki with watery eyes, like everything's clicked, as if she's seen a kindred spirit, and she breaks down. Failure is important for growth, but it doesn't change the fact that it can be heartbreaking. Throwing your entire being into something only to feel you've fallen short, that your all didn't amount to a win, that it didn't meet your expectations, can be soul-crushing. This means even more in the context of the series too, since golf is so heavily tied to Oga and her relationship with her mother, who is out in the States herself. Tied in with her passions is all sorts of other emotions, potentially regarding abandonment, not feeling good enough or worthy enough towards her own mother. It's messy and complicated, and another instance of people sacrificing things to pursue something they love. Sadly, this element doesn't get explored much, but it does enrich Oga's character a ton, as well as make the railway station scene even more emotional. One more element of this railway scene I adore is the aftermath, where we get Yaesaki monologuing about Oga on the train. There's a focus on Yaesaki wanting to be more like Oga here, less as a golfer but more as a person, as a way of life. We cry sometimes when we're sad or when we're happy, but rarely do I see crying depicted when it's a more obtuse emotion on display. Here, where Yaesaki cries, I think it's at the notion of beauty, of how wonderful Oga is. To call someone a beautiful person, I think, is a great deal, and it's not referring to their looks but their character. When you see something profound or someone trying their all with all their heart on display, I at least find it a little hard to hold back tears sometimes. How can you not when someone is so radiant, when someone is living their life to the fullest? This ties back into the core ideas and thematic elements of Green Green Greens, of living in your ideal way or pursuing your passion and your ideal self in regards to that. Maybe Yaesaki wants to have this same reaction to himself one day, or have others follow this chain and be inspired by him and his beauty as a golfer. Either way, it's an astoundingly beautiful scene, and I love it to bits. Green Green Greens, for its ending, fittingly then slows down even more. It focuses then on contemplation and iteration. Just as a golfer must hit balls over and over, the manga hits its main points into us over and over, but it's not boring, it's genuinely moving. I would describe it as pure catharsis because you see the series embrace itself. Yaesaki openly shouts that he loves golf despite all the setbacks and hurdles that have presented themselves throughout his journey. There will always be someone better than you, but there will never be someone who has gone through the same failures and successes as you. There will never be someone who grows just like you. Green Green Greens ends by telling you that it's okay to fail, so long as you get back up. It's just another part of your growth as a human being. So that's how Green Green Greens ends. It's not an explosive ending or an our journey continues type deal, but it may be one of my favorite endings to anything ever, probably because it imparts such a clear, concise, and lovely message. It even mentions moving into adulthood, which isn't something the series really tackles much, but it does present this kind of hope for the future I like too, and does wrap it up in a nice coming of age type blanket. The subject of the series is about golf, but its narrative and message by the end of the day are applicable to anything. To persevere, to fail and get back up, as well as to find an ideal self to follow, one you will be happy with that doesn't rely purely on others and intrinsic motivation. These are things we can all take into heart and apply to our daily lives and passions. I do like golf. The golf series I have read have been fun. I like Leslie Nielsen's silly golfing video. I like playing mini golf or going to driving ranges. All of that's really fun, but it's not my core passion. Still, I feel like I can apply all of Green Green Greens to something like drawing or making art, where you still fail a ton, and comparing yourself to others is pointless because every artist is so individual. Making art is in itself a process of putting your soul to paper or whatever other medium you want to use. That just can't be copy-pasted from another person. You have to learn to have an ideal self or an ideal art style you want to follow. In that regard, I can easily apply Green Green Greens to the things I love, even if they're not golf. It gets away with its ending too, because it put in all the work to build it up, of slowly building up its characters and themes throughout the story. It never felt like it capitulated to modern Shonen Jump standards, it never rushed itself or went through standard arcs or tropes. Sadly, this didn't amount to it sticking within the magazine, but what it resulted in is an excellent manga that has had a profound impact on others, which we'll dive into in a little bit. Before that though, I want to run through some general praises I have. So it gets top marks for how it tackles its themes and character development. A lot of this is done through its dialogue. The text itself this time is a highlight. I think Christine Dashiell killed it with the translation here. An example I want to bring up relates to how relatable and real feeling the dialogue often is. There's a portion where Yaesaki states, "Right now I'm living my life with all my heart and soul. Oh god, I really hate this. Yuck, I hate myself. I'm so small and insignificant. Ugh, pathetic." It's really the type of stream of consciousness I can imagine someone thinking. I think the dialogue is really intimate and helps paint a varied emotional canvas for its characters, which adds a ton to the work. The relatability through dialogue makes them all better, as does their familial situations, relationships with each other. I think the cast is very well realized. And for the side cast who don't get much time to shine, they're all pretty likable too, sans Hajio, who I found a tad annoying and out of place. On the art front, I wouldn't call GGG the most technically advanced manga, but it has this aura, a haziness to it, perhaps because of its softer use of screen tones. I think this adds to the sentimental feeling it carries, and alongside this you have a lot of longing gazes, a focus on eyes which is one of my favourite parts of the series. There's something about the way Terasaka draws them that conveys a lot of emotion. They tend to stand out a lot too because their eyelids and lashes are very prominent and black. They just kind of stand out on a page. It always takes a second, but the page layouts for me transition from being unremarkable to subtly really brilliant. I can't put my finger fully on why, other than that I think they tend to be very well paced and text isn't too ubiquitous. It's a very pleasant and easy read. Now on to why it might have been axed, and the most glaring reasoning I think is its subject matter. Golf has its fans for sure, but demographically speaking, I think a lot of those would be older, and as a sport, it doesn't have the team dynamics you might expect from a lot of other big sports shonen. The series itself makes a great point about golf being a solo sport. This fits GGG in a contemplative character exploration type manner, but that may not have appealed to Jump's wider audience. It's not as though golf isn't popular or it can't succeed. The magazine has had hits like Rising Impact, less so Robot X Laserbeam, and plenty of older golf hits or series that ran a bit longer in the 80s and 70s. But there's definitely a discrepancy I think of what GGG was versus what people might want from a Jump Spokon at this point in time. Its slower pace and focus on drama may similarly not be as popular as some flashier work, so feel free to say it should have been in X magazine or whatever. I'm sure there will be many comments of that ilk. Sports manga in general is another harsh element to discuss, as for a long time we haven't had a breakout success in this genre. Harukaze Mount currently seems to be doing okay, but before that we have to go back to the likes of Haikyuu or Hinamaru Zumo to find a big hit. When I cover cancelled sports series, I tend to bring up this idea that there's a high level of expectation for these series within Jump. They want a slam dunk, a Kuroko no Basket or Haikyuu, which sadly isn't what GGG ended up being. At the time of its ending, Jump was pumping out new series too. The batch of manga following it would include Yokai Buster Murakami, but also Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi and Himeten, and those two are still in the magazine to this day. As for series that were weak links at the time, Dear Anemone would end alongside GGG, then we have Chojo, which had already found some footing at the time as a new gag manga, and then everything else was too new to cut or was doing well. It's a bit of a shame that GGG couldn't coast a little bit longer, as next year we would see many long-running series end, giving the magazine a bit more breathing room, but at the time Green Greens was axed, it was a pretty suffocating period in Jump. We've now gone through my thoughts on the series, its high points and potential reasons for cancellation, but what does the rest of the X-Files division think? How did Green Greens resonate with them? Let's look at their responses. First of all, I want to check out a subset of reviews that began with something like, "I don't care about golf, but..." Feeding into the idea that golf may not have been the most popular subject matter for a work, many people acknowledged this aspect but also ended up praising the series regardless. Jay Vasso found there was an incredible earnestness to every aspect of GGG. It was inspiring and relatable and made them want to be better as a person. This is a huge win, even if they still say they couldn't see themselves caring about golf in the end. It's a great example of how even if a subject isn't your thing, a good story can still make you empathize with its cast and care. I love the earnestness that GGG brings out in people. There's no reservation about mentioning people's preconceptions going in or how it made them feel after. Some people like Nenek and Horai mention not being very fond of sports or sports manga, but due to how the characters were written, they ended up enjoying anyway. Emblem, conversely, mentions enjoying sports manga, but not so much golf, and while GGG didn't change their mind about the sport overall, they did enjoy the series for what it was, heavily citing the artwork as a reason why. To expand on this, they bring up it being nice to look at, it having good paneling, and the eyes especially drawing them in, which I completely understand, as there's something very captivating about how Terasaka draws them. Demon Summoning Enthusiast is another reviewer who didn't expect to enjoy a golf series going into it, but was pleasantly surprised with them reading it all in one sitting. They bring up some nice analysis in their review on the hesitancy and fear that sometimes takes root when you give a passion your all. This exploration, paired with how the characters were explored, with how naturalistic the dialogue was, gave the series a level of maturity that Demon Summoning Enthusiast thinks makes the series. It's inherently human, and the ease at which you empathize with its cast lets you sink into it despite its subject matter, which is great. Still on the subject of golf as a game, Palette suggests your mileage with GGG will vary depending on whether or not you find Yaesaki compelling, as golf is an incredibly individualistic and lonely sport. Palette further mentions, golf is a sport where you're both mentally and physically on an island. Through this, I feel GGG wouldn't be the same if it weren't for its choice of sport. It's because of how mentally focused and individual golf is that we get this level of introspection. The sport itself facilitates all of this. Palette further goes on to describe GGG as human and honest, with them appreciating the series' level of optimism, despite one of the main talking points being the idea that there will always be someone better than you. It reframes this through the course of the series to make it more about personal growth and development, which results in a very rich and enjoyable story. Up next, we have some more critical reviews, since not everyone did enjoy GGG. Maya wasn't really a fan, finding it didn't stand out much from other sports manga, and its slow pacing didn't work for them either. Similarly, Chert Frumpus found the series to be slightly off in most aspects, with the characters and their dynamics not clicking with them, showing that despite how much it's been lauded, the series isn't for everyone. Fenrir Black found the series to be straightforward in character, plot, and themes, stating the author clearly knew what they were doing, but they cite its failure is most likely due to it not being interesting enough. They extrapolate and bring up how long it takes for Yaesaki to hit the ball or get into a game, saying these actions aren't very interesting. It focuses on how difficult golf is, diving into the technical aspects which suck the fun out of the series for them. They find most of the characters off-putting too, including Yaesaki, who they mention is cringy due to his obsession for golf. I do find it interesting that this experience is so at odds with everyone else's, and honing into the last point, for many Yaesaki's growing love for the sport of golf was the hook, the thing that got them invested and emotional that ended up being inspirational in a lot of instances. So to contrast this, let's take a look at how the series deeply touched others. T-Mix mentions that GGG is one of their favorite Axe manga, bringing up a personal anecdote of them deeply resonating with GGG and Yaesaki's journey, inspiring them to gather their confidence and give it their role in soccer, or football. Even with it being a completely different sport, it still managed to evoke some very special feelings, which I think is the hallmark of a good sports manga. What's more, T-Mix goes on to praise its lovable and interesting cast and refreshing pace, stating they genuinely have no real complaints with the series overall. Mark gave us a really big, passionate review that was frankly a joy to read. Here they parallel themselves to Yaesaki, but with swimming in place of golf. Reading it reminded them of their past struggles with finding something to love and feel dedicated towards, as well as the journey they would undergo through improving. Even now, the characters of the series are relatable to them, and they describe GGG as a profound work that seems to have touched them deeply. When I talk about how powerful art or manga can be in my videos, I think things like this are what I'm often referring to. When a piece of media or art makes you feel so connected or emotionally resonant, and I'm so glad GGG could elicit this reaction in multiple people. We're not done with Mark yet though, as they also bring up the series through the lens of it being a meta-commentary on getting axed and, by extension, failure. Here, Mark brings up the first proper game Yaesaki plays, which can be seen as Terasaka's first Jump series, Beast Children. That series played things a bit more typically, which you could mirror to Yaesaki trying to learn and copy from others, but as the series progresses, he learns that he needs to keep learning for himself and to set his goal to becoming an ideal version of him. Green Greens, as we've discussed throughout the video, eschews most of the usual sports tropes. It's much slower and pensive. It's Terasaka embracing their individuality, just like Yaesaki. I'm not sure how intentional or deep the mirroring is, but it's a very novel way to look at the series, and I have no doubt that there's a lot of sincerity within Green Greens when it comes to the theme of learning from your failures. It's refreshing to see others write about it in their review that the message Terasaka left hits so profoundly and has seemingly touched many people's lives. Millie gave a really well written and positive review, which I think puts things into words far better than I did in all honesty. They point out the series' strengths elegantly, and I have to agree with their final assessment that Green Green's various elements interweave to make it a quote, touching work. I think that's one of the best ways I've seen it described. Gnome felt it benefited from being a shorter story since it was so focused on finding intrinsic value through things like self-development. In contrast, far-off nebulous external goals like visiting America for the golfing scene there clash with that. The focus always remained tight within the series, though if the series did want to go stateside, we have plenty of other reasons why Yaesaki would go there, which involve the relationships he made throughout Green Greens. I thought this was a neat observation about the series and its length though, so I really wanted to bring it up. There were so many other positive reviews overall this time. It's perhaps the most I've ever received for an individual axe file, and even if I don't cover them all here, I had a fun time reading them all, and I'm super glad most people seem to enjoy the series or were touched by it in some way. So thank you very much for writing in.
Oh. There's one thing I almost forgot. Do you have another minute?
For one final review, I want to bring up Yozakura Saiko, who holds the series in high regard and thinks it was a big improvement over Terasaka's previous series, Beast Children, especially in the art department. Yozakura is also an example of one of many fans of the series who holds it up in high regard not just as a favorite axe manga, but as a favorite manga in general. Why else would they have collected all the volumes and its debut Jump cover? I love showcasing people's little collections like this and admire people's love behind a series a ton. The works we cover on the Axe Files usually never get English physical releases, so when fans go out of their way to acquire Japanese copies, it shows just how beloved they can be, despite their status as a cancelled work. This has been by far our newest Axed series, and usually I'd wait a bit longer to cover a work like this in a video, but it's been requested so much and is such a good series that I couldn't help but cover it now. Despite its recency and its ending, Terasaka has still managed to create more and is still active in the manga world, as in this year's Jump Jäger's winter issue of 2025, we got the one-shot Hidari Jingoro. This is a beautiful one-shot that was only written by Terasaka with art done by Mikaru Sayahoshi. It focuses on the real-world figure and artist Hidari Jingoro. It incorporates his history and art into this magical one-shot about the power of art, how it can touch and heal others. It's reflective and has the same level of emotional intensity as well as calm as Green Greens, and I heavily recommend seeking out its fan translation. Whether Terasaka creates more manga or just does the writing, I think what he makes next will be truly amazing. If you do want more from him though, he's very active online. Throughout and post the creation of GGG, he's done a myriad of little comics involving the characters and still draws them to this day. The comics are just cute little things, but a member of the Axe Files Discord took the time to translate them all for us to read, so big shout out to Jesus Flash there. There are also quite a few big color illustrations Terasaka has done with the characters, and you can just feel the love he has for them radiate from them. Terasaka also has a YouTube channel where he streams very frequently. This includes him playing games, opening One Piece trading card packs, of which he designed a card for, and there's also a lot of him drawing too. I have no idea what he talks about in these, but it seems like a very chill time, and I can't think of any other examples of a mangaka we've covered yet who does something like this, like streaming. There will be links to Terasaka's socials in the description if you want to take a peek. And if you're still a bit weepy over Green's ending, I think checking these out might put a big smile to your face. It's so clear how much he loves making manga and how much he loves Green specifically. All of his default images for his streams are of the Green's cast. It's frankly adorable. And with that, this long and emotional file on Green's has come to a close. How did you feel about the series? Did it move you? Do you have any criticism or praise which weren't covered here? Feel free to chat about it in the comments, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this is your first Axfile or video from me, I have plenty more on other cancelled manga. Manga is the focus of the channel mainly, and this also extends to my History of Shonen Jump series, where I look at the world's most popular manga magazine year by year, covering its big hits as well as the cancelled series that have been lost to time. Please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video around if you'd like to see more videos like this too. It helps a ton. I also want to send a big thanks out to my patrons who help facilitate these videos. They probably wouldn't be as long or as in-depth without the support they provide. If you'd like to join them, you can do so for as little as $1 a month, where you'll get access to polls to decide the subject of future Axfiles videos, as well as a collection of bonus videos and silly stuff I make. For the $3 and above tiers, you'll also get a little doodle drawn by me to represent you in the credits of videos like all of these cool people. Thank you, Trinity, Jade, Kaizoku Gairu, Sorokul Zero, Holly the Apothecary, Mayu, It's Faco, Yellowtail, Lace Loggett, Chris P. Bacon, Chohenshin, Full Metal, Unquestionable, Yozakura Psycho, Wurzel, Violent, Cactus, Joni, City Name E, Vina Burrito, Caffeine Dad, Cryonaut, Crash, 41IZ, Hong, Jamie Reynolds, Manu, Poke Emblem, James Miller, Joba Monkey, Just a Virus, Star Sphinx, PK Broly, Penro Black, Elijah Espinoza, Neo Humanoid, Mark Nilsson, Electropirate, Jay Vasso, Three Frogs in a Trenchcoat, Sir Flash, Gay Shark, Slimy Okra, Gidista, TG Talks Manga, Wavy Sky, John Jerry 722, Andrew, Zenomat, Miskul, Hilltop, Wacko Draws, Otaku Gamer X, Deadpan, Shy Monkeys, Jonathan Dragonet, John Sanford, Color, Jaime, Strawberry Proshone, Vaz, Palette, Ruina, Juice, Kuromi Nox, Eric Gorski, Mr. Shira, Chris Exploder, Dextora, Ennio Showo, Cheese, Emmy, and Benjamin. Thank you all so much for being patrons. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind and take care.